After auditing 300 plus podcasts, I found 3 show notes mistakes that are actively slowing down business owners' podcast growth and their ability to monetize. So today I'm revealing all 3 mistakes so that you can avoid them at all costs and grow your podcast as fast as possible. So look, I think the best way to reveal these 3 mistakes is simply by sharing a story known as a perfect blurb that never sold. Now you might not have heard of this before, but back in the day there was a marketing professor and he had 3 brilliant students in his class, and in order to decide who the best student was, he posed a very simple challenge. He asked them to write the blurb for his upcoming book on psychology, and each student would have their own space and their own aisle at a bookstore. And after a month of the book going live, they would review and measure which book made the most sales. Now, of course, the students were super excited and they couldn't wait. But each student took a totally different approach. Student number 1, well, he thought to himself, well, you know what, like, do people read blurbs? I mean, I don't read blurbs. So he treated his blurb as an afterthought. He thought in his head that, you know what, I think most of the selling will come from just the title of the book and the author's name. So at the back of the book, his blurb just read, "Bear's book on psychology is a must read. Buy now." That's all it said. And then the second student, well, he thought to himself, he had a long hard think and thought, you know what, I mean, how could I best sell this? So his idea was, well, my professor has all these credentials. He's been in the game for 20 plus years. He's wrote all of these amazing books and has participated in all these studies. So he thought to himself, if I just add as much information about the author, his professor, in the back of the book, that will surely convince people as to why they should listen and also convince them that it's worth their money. Like, I mean, look at all his credentials. He's done so much. He's a professor. He's published in these magazines. Why wouldn't they buy? So he decides to do that. And then the final student, well, he had his brilliant idea. He read through the book and thought, wow, holy crap, there is so much valuable information here. I'm going to make sure that it's impossible for anyone who's interested not to buy this. And how I'm going to do that is by adding so much information, providing so much value, showing them all the golden bits of opportunity in each chapter, showing them what they're going to miss, and front loading the blurb with a bunch of information so they know exactly what they're going to buy. So that's what he did. And then a month goes by and the professor rounds up the 3 students and he lets them in on the surprising outcome. He tells them that none of them made a sale across all of them. Now, of course, the students were in disbelief and they didn't believe that this was possible. So they thought, you know what? No, we want to have a look at a CCTV to look and make sure that you haven't got this wrong. So they went to the bookstore, went to the back of the room and found a tape from the last month. What they found was very surprising. For student number 1, they noticed something interesting. Customers would walk up to the aisle, have a smile on their face, pick up the book, turn it around, read the blurb, and then immediately put it back. Then they would proceed to go to a competitor's book that was also about psychology, pick it up, turn it around, have a smile on their face, and then walk up to the till and buy the book. And then for student number 2, they noticed something also interesting. The customers would once again pick up the book with a massive smile on their face, and they didn't put the book down immediately. They actually took their time. They started reading, they were nodding along and had a smile on their face, but then afterwards, all of a sudden, they still put the book down. Then went to the next book, which was again a competitor's. They picked it up, had a smile on their face, and then they went to the till in order to make their purchase. And then finally with student number 3, again, they noticed something very interesting. Customers behaved in one or two ways. The number 1, put the book down immediately and would run to the next aisle to the competitor's book. They'll pick it up and then make a purchase. Or they would sit there, start reading for a minute or two, then all of a sudden kind of had a look on their face as if to say they were overwhelmed. So they put the book back, went to the aisle, which was a competitor's that was also on psychology, pick up the book, turn it around, read the blurb, and then walk up to the till like clockwork and make their purchase. So of course, curious as to why their books weren't selling, the students had a brilliant idea. They were going to hunt down each customer that went to each of their aisle and ask them the simple question of, well, why didn't you buy? So that's what they did. And student number 1 spoke to his potential customers and they gave him a very similar answer. They all basically said and repeated the exact same thing, which was, well, the title was great, but the book didn't really tell me anything. There wasn't any information about why I should read it, if it what's in it for me. So I just put it down and just went to another book. For student number 2, the customers again repeated the exact same thing like clockwork. They kind of said, honestly, like, the professor sounds awesome, the author sounds great, and I was great learning about his background and his backstory, but I didn't really understand what was in it for me to invest my time to read the book. Like, again, it was cool stuff that he did, but I didn't really get what the benefit was for me. And student number 3, all of his customers said pretty much the exact same thing. To begin with, it was super fun to learn about all the different things I was going to learn in the book. But to be honest with you, I just got overwhelmed. Like, there was just too much information. I didn't really understand what specifically I was going to learn. There was a lot of different things, so I felt a bit overwhelmed and thought, oh, you know what, let me just put this book down and go for something a bit more simpler. Maybe if I read the book, it'll be too much for me to handle right now. And then, of course, at the end of these interactions, each of the students asked the very obvious question, which was, well, why the hell did you buy the other competitor's book? And like clockwork, every single customer had a grin on their face, kind of smirked and laughed, and said, well, it's obvious, just have a look and you'll see yourself. And then they all turned around and walked off. The students, eager to kind of get a glimpse of what this magic blurb was, they turn around, rush into the store, and there they find their marketing professor, who is sitting there with a book in his hand, and it's not his own, it's his competitor's. And he looks at them with a grin and a smile on his face as he delivers the final blow. Guys, it's clear why this guy beats you. I mean, look for yourself. He turns the book around, he shows in the blurb, and in that instant, it finally hit. 3 things were made very obvious that show them why their books didn't sell and why the competitors sold like crazy. Number 1, it was clearly designed with intention and care. It wasn't treated like an afterthought. It was almost as if the person writing the blurb knew that just the title alone wasn't going to sell the purchase and convince someone to buy. They knew it was going to be something that a portion of the customers will read, and it was designed in that way. Number 2, the blurb was entirely focused on what the reader was going to gain and how their lives would improve and why they couldn't afford not to read the book. It was so precise, and there was no mention at all of the author. The entire focus was on the actual readers and what they're going to gain. And 3, it wasn't overloaded with information. It just shared enough value to build massive interest and desire for people to want to learn more. But it didn't give them the secret sauce. It just gave them a good enough taste to where they wanted to find out way more about the book. Now, after reading the blurb, all 3 students and the professor looked at each other, locked eyes, smiled, walked to the till, pulled out their cash, and purchased the book straight away. Now look, why the hell am I sharing this story, and what the hell does it have to do with you growing and monetizing your podcast? Well, it's really simple, right? Don't treat your podcast like an afterthought. This is what so many business owners and entrepreneurs do. They just treat it like an afterthought, as if no one's going to read it. When in actuality, you might have the best title on earth. There's going to be a percentage of new and old listeners who don't know you yet, who don't like you, who don't trust you yet. And they're going to click on your title, go to your show notes, and have a read to help them decide whether or not they should click play and invest their time and energy into your show. But when you treat it like an afterthought and you don't give them much, well, they don't have a reason to click play and listen. And then in that moment, you've lost out on the listener. This is one of the very few opportunities you have to turn a total stranger or an old listener into an actual listener. And the second thing is this. So many business owners on podcasts rely too heavily on their guests and providing their credentials and their backstory and how they did X, Y, and Z and PhD this and PhD that. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's great you have an amazing guest, but it's important to know that if you want to turn this person and convince them to listen, you have to tell them why they can't afford not to listen to the podcast, not share a bunch of information that sounds cool about your guest. That's not selling. And then finally, don't overload your show notes with a bunch of information and tell everyone everything they're going to learn in the episode. Just pick out the top 3 things that's going to build the most interest and the most desire for them to actually want to listen to your podcast in the first place. That's the entire goal of your show notes, right? It's not just placed in a bunch of information. It's an area that you can use as a sales agent for your podcast. So let it sell, let it build interest, let it build the desire for a new or old listener to want to listen to your podcast. Give them the most valuable bits that makes them want to have the entire experience. And those are the 3 biggest mistakes you should actively avoid when it comes to your show notes. So with that being said, I'll catch you in the next video.